All right, this is Christian Fromhertz, Tribeca Trade Group, with your end of day summary for Monday. And a pretty quiet day, all in all. We've talked about this weekend. I talked about this in the weekend newsletter. This is typically a earnings season. Once it kind of kicks off, gets to be pretty choppy. So Netflix just reported, and it looks like they had some good results, good guidance. The streaming numbers beat, so they're up to 178. The implied option move was 173. So when you've got some really strong numbers, the price will go through that option move. They were applying about 8%, 8.2% move, and we're now above that. So real nice beat for Netflix, and a good sign so far, right? So a couple of the other names not really moving too much after hours. Today just didn't have the oomph. Amazon looked pretty good after the open. Apple saw a lot of call buying in the first couple hours of the session, and things kind of went quiet. There was a couple of just trades that kind of caught my eye. I'm really trying not to really take too much now, because I'm cognizant of this is a choppy time. And it should be for the next couple weeks. We saw the Chinese internet names sell off a little bit right after the open. Maybe this has a little bit something to do with the Shenzhen, which was down overnight, but they recovered. I just think all in all, this whole group, the China Internet Group, was up 7% last week. So it's probably going to consolidate a little bit. We saw this with BABA, some red bars materialized. Take a look. It did not break down. So there was some call buying at the end of the day in Alibaba, but no breakdown, right? When you go through value area and you hold at the bottom, that green line, it's pretty good. Kind of just indicates that, maybe due for a little bit of a breather. JD.com did break value, but came back at the end of the day. NTES, which I had a position on, and I dumped on the first couple of those red bars. So I can revisit this. Whenever you decide to get out of a position, because it's an option position and you don't want to see the value, you don't want to lose too much value in it. What I always do is I always put a target back out there, where it makes sense that it's kind of retaking some of those areas that it lost. So, NTES, maybe right back above 305 tells me that it's coming back. It's resuming that trend to the upside. It does have some support ahead of it. I just didn't want to sit in a trade that may have a little bit of chop going forward for the next couple of days. Just I wasn't in a very long dated trade there. So a couple other trades that we saw today, and I'll go over today's performance, and then that's about it. Not really much else to kind of talk about today. Metals and mining were up 1.2%, so they continue to go higher. They had a nice week last week. Take a look at the move against over the 200-day moving average. Your support is 30.24. Steel names also did pretty well. We saw some call buying in ATI, which is a name in that space, Allegheny Technology. I took a small position in ATI, as it looked, it looks like it's just trying to head above the 200-day moving average, very similar to a couple of the other names in the space that are trying to retake some of these levels that have seen some weakness the last couple months. A couple other names: Chicago Bridge and Iron saw some August 17 and a half calls go up a couple times today. FCX, two copper plays, FCX and SCCO. Copper's been strong. I talked about this. I'm in copper last week, but look at SCCO today, up 2.2%. Nice looking chart, right? Nice move. And copper stayed up there. Copper closed close to the highs of the day, up 1.4%. So a nice move in copper and in FCX, which I believe closed right at the 200-day moving average. Did hit this VPOC up here, which sometimes you see a little bit of a pullback after that. But I think as long as we could stay at the 200-day moving average, we got a fighting chance here in FCX, as well as with copper going up. So I talked about Apple. Twitter, there was a little call buying as well, which we saw a little bit of that last week. Six Flags, haven't seen a call buyer in this name in a long time. So some August 55s going up. Not a bad looking chart in Six Flags. I did not take this trade, but you got your stop right. You can put your stop right below the 200-day moving average, and looks pretty good to me. And then Visa and MasterCard. We're seeing more call buying as these names try to break out. Visa does report earnings shortly. Same thing with MasterCard, but they're both at the 52-week highs. PayPal got going towards the end of the day, still holding in the gains. Same thing with Square. These names, Square gave back a 0.5%, but real big performance from these names over the last couple weeks. What else? We saw a little bit of BAC call buying. I mentioned the ATI call buying. COHU, this is another one of these semi-manufacturing names. Repeat call buying in this one. So big move today, up 8%. We saw a little bit, really small trades that went up last week. Sharp but aggressive. And in a number of other trades in this space too. KLIC was another name that we saw call buying in. Did not see the call buyer in it today, but still up 1.2%. This is the name that I'm long in this space. I can't be long every semi-manufacturing name, but Kohu, they went August 17 and a half and purchased them close to the highs of the day as well. Home Depot, this is a trade that I got long last week. So great to see a call buyer. Looks like it's trying to turn the corner here. So it doesn't look awesome, but consumer discretionary also did pretty well today. Retail XRT was up close to 1%, so still moving higher since we saw those target results. I'm looking for Home Depot. I'm in a short dated trade. I'm looking for this sucker to get up to 156. So again, short dated trade for me in Home Depot that I got into last week. And a little bit of Starbucks calling, Starbucks calls. Starbucks doesn't look bad either. These were the two names that I talked about last week in the consumer discretionary space that I thought looked interesting. Kind of finished down on the day. Watch the support of 5806, but maybe we'll needs another day or two to kind of do a little bit more of retracement. And Wuba, I'll end it there. There was a Chinese internet play that saw some call activity in the beginning of the day. This name has performed really well. So this name, I actually did start a position in Wuba, and I'll tack on a bigger position if it comes in a little bit further, which, looking at the chart, I would look for maybe a move somewhere in here. I think that would be a place where I would want to add to a bigger position or start a bigger position. So that's it for today's video, end of day video. Have a great night and see you back tomorrow morning. Again, a lot more names reporting tomorrow morning, so we'll see how that goes. UNH, I did get long UNH for earnings for tomorrow. Thanks very much. Have a great night.